Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And as a bit of a departure from our usual outings, we are going to return to the Daniel Larson wiki for the first time in at least 5 weeks because there are certain things that I kind of wanted to uncover and sort of talk a little bit more about with Daniel because even though Daniel would like to imagine that things are going to go exactly as they were before, outside of the fact that Daniel Larson might be going back to jail soon because of what he said over TikTok. I think it would be a good point to mention at this stage, just among other things, why you don't trust Daniel. Now, let's bear a couple of things in mind. The fact that, among other things, from the various dangerous threats that Daniel Larson makes towards people, and the fact that Daniel Larson has, well, tendencies towards, well, minors. Well, yeah, well, actually, I've got a question about that. Is it specifically Grace Vanderbilt that Daniel had the hots for, or was it literally just younger people in general? Because if so, I literally almost would be tempted not to even bother talking about Daniel Larson at all, because we don't entertain even people like that. That goes like way too far if you ask me. But now that we are sort of back on track, let's go completely off the rails by talking about Daniel Larson's compulsive lying, because like a lot of people of Daniel Larson's description and society, they're not particularly trustworthy people, because they can always be accounted on the fact that they lie so frequently, even they believe in their own lies. And that's when you know you can't trust anybody, is when they start, when you know that they're lying, but they can't work out why nobody's believing them. So, I would say that this article is actually relatively short, but there's actually quite a lot to discuss despite its content. So, first of all, compulsive lying needs additional citations, unsourced material may be removed, and compulsive lying is incomplete or missing content. In fact, let me demonstrate to you just how much missing content there is. Ready? That's the entire article, but let's try our best. Daniel Larson is known to make up unbelievable lies and stories to make himself look better to others. I mean, I'd say that's the reason why everybody lies, well, most of the time. Daniel lies about multiple subjects around his life, most notably about his level of fame, popularity, and sometimes his financial situation. Yes, for example, Daniel Larson made the claim that he made $600 from the songs that he released, and bear in mind, we might actually try and actually take a look at his songs, because for what they are worth, which is not very much, we'll see if they actually merit $600 in sales. He even went as far as to once lie on an application form when he got Music, a German Shepherd, stating, the German Shepherd was named Music, I apologize for that, stating that he lived in an RV in order to adopt her, and they just willfully gave an entire German Shepherd to Daniel just because. If Daniel Larson walked into a shelter, and an animal shelter, and said, I would like one German Shepherd, please," would you take one look at Daniel Larson and think, something's not quite right? But I suppose they can't really discriminate, but I suppose they can maybe step in when they know the buyer is obviously lying about intent. This is because the shelter Daniel visited did not allow for the homeless to adopt. Well, it's exactly for that reason. Now, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I've known many homeless people in my time who all have pets of their own, from like tiny dogs and whatnot. I'm not entirely sure what the actual like rule is when it comes to vagrancy, when it comes to pet ownership, because how exactly can you? I don't know if this is the sort of thing that the RSPCA, at least in the UK, would stand in for, because how exactly can homeless people take care of pets or animals when they're in such dire financial straits that they have to live out on the streets, or at least live in accommodated shelters? Now, let me tell you, I'll just, again, for what they're worth, ladies and gentlemen, I should point out is that if Daniel Larson lived in Newcastle upon Tyne, there are there's an entire street that is completely dedicated to housing the homeless people in Newcastle. So there are always shelters available. Now, I've never actually been to any of these shelters. I'll just say that much. But I absolutely know where they are. And the thing I kind of wanted to just sort of bring up out of curiosity's sake is that I have no idea if these shelters accommodate for animals as well. Well, or specifically homeless people with animals. That's the sort of thing that the RSPCA and emergency animal shelters were devised for. So if there was ever, I suppose that also comes down to whether or not Daniel Larson was technically homeless at this time, because to really be homeless you'd have to be in a situation where every shelter from the Salvation Army to the YMCA's would completely just shut their doors and say no. And I don't even know at this stage if they forbade animals, but there's no doubt that there's got to be some regulations in there, because I can't imagine the actual accommodation the homeless get only amounts to basically a single room with a bed and maybe, I don't know, a sideboard of some kind. Maybe a window possibly as well. So, because, again, I don't know. I've never been to a home that actually had to sleep rough before, so that's just why I'm getting this out there. This page is to archive all of Daniel Larson's biggest lies. There is still a lot missing here, so if you find anything noteworthy, please add to the list. There's only 3 at this point, so first of all, please check out my new song Merry Go Round on Amazon Music, starting at 9:39 a.m. Daniel claims that he made 80 to 100k in 2022. He also mentions that he did not pay his taxes because Bob told him he didn't need to. Okay, let's crack this this first lie. The first of all, there's no way that the only reason why Daniel Larson probably wouldn't need to pay taxes is because he did not earn enough to pay excessive amounts of taxes. You see, again, this is the problem I have with not living in the US, or specifically in the state of Colorado, is because if you were self-employed in the UK, you would have to earn, it's something roughly about either 12,000 pounds a year, even if you were going through self-employment to pay taxes. If you had a full-time job but you also did something as a self-employed gig, then the circumstances would change. AKA, you would have to pay something roughly about it's only when you get to roughly about either 18k or possibly even 20k a year just to pay extra tax when you do stuff that's self-employed whilst you're also in a full-time job. So there's no way I can imagine that Daniel Larson would have to pay tax, because, well, to be honest, when you're homeless, what actual tax do you actually have to pay? There's no such thing as a vagrancy tax, because I don't exactly know how you can extort money out of somebody who literally doesn't have any. The only exceptions maybe to the rule is that if there was such a thing as workhouses in the US, or we all know, well, we're pretty familiar with what workhouses are, and they're pretty self-explanatory. But no, I can't imagine this is the sort of thing that hasn't been a thing in the world since at least the 1950s. Still, there's plenty of people out there right now in the US and the UK, all of Europe, and maybe the whole of the North and South Americans, in which conditions akin to slavery probably exist. So this is obviously a lie, and I suppose Bob only told Daniel they didn't have to pay taxes because, well, this was obviously a lie. Community post September 10th, 2023. Daniel asserts that he does not give 100 fucks about online harassment. Highly doubtable judging from past actions. That's exactly. I don't understand why. I don't understand why Daniel. Because remember, at this point, Daniel absolutely. It was common knowledge that we knew that Daniel Larson was the P word, and as a result, I don't understand why he doesn't think that fully admitting to stuff like that, amongst other things from trying to adopt a German Shepherd when Daniel absolutely knew he was in no position to do this. So that's the thing. I think the only reason Daniel said this is because he's trying to prove he's the big man, that he's got a very thick skin, and his hide is extraordinarily tough, and not just as a result of things like, exposure from the elements, both online and in the real world. So I dispute that. We know, fine, based on recent events, I'm pretty sure Daniel Larson does care, because, well, why would he go out of his way to say the things that he does or do the things that he does? So that's BS right there. Cash App hacked September 12, 2023. So literally 2 days later. Daniel tells us his Cash App was hacked. Minutes later, claiming he made $5,000 from it. Well, I'd say that's a lie, and this is a lie. So I don't know. I think Daniel's just trying to, at this point, feed his audience to think that if they get bored of his shenanigans, then that's about it. I wish there was anything more I can add to this. Well, there is possibly one more thing I suppose I can add to this, is that when Daniel was arrested for the first time and sent to, I think it was Broomfields, is that he claimed in a leaked phone call that he learned how to fight while he was in jail, which is, I don't believe that for 1 second, because, again, if you've seen the recent pictures of Daniel Larson, it looks as if he's been in more fights and lost than he's actually won, because his nose is swollen so badly. He looks as if it's like his right ear has been chewed off, and then it suddenly wasn't as a result of music. And then, of course, there's the fact that if Daniel made like 80 to 100k, then why didn't he just not pay off his $20,000 bail the first time, or pay off his $1,000 bail the second time? It's because the trolls did it because they want to think that the only way to get a rise out of Daniel is by just throwing money at him so that he will continue to entertain people. But the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you are a compulsive liar, you won't be believed by anyone, and the only people who are and even when people pay attention to you when you lie, the only reason why they do it is because they want, for the likes of Daniel Larson, they'll just want to document you and write up stories about you. That's literally the only reason why they do it, and it's the sort of thing that can land you in very serious trouble, because all of Daniel Larson's claims about how much he makes, when we know most people who make at least $5,000 a month are not homeless. So there's that as well. And with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reading of the Daniel Larson wiki. There's like a couple more articles I wanted to cover over, and it's the reason why I'll be dropping a lot of these today. So what else can I say, ladies and gentlemen? Just don't lie. Oh my god. Stop fucking lying.